Hey there, welcome to a peek inside the Kids Ministry Circle cohorts. Our cohorts are designed to be a community for kids ministry leaders to be encouraged and equipped to love and serve the local church. This conversation is all about partnering with parents, and it was from our fall 2022 cohort. If you're watching this and are interested in jumping into our Kids Ministry Circle cohort, you can head over to kidsministrycircle.com/cohort to learn more and to learn when signups are open and available. As always, if you enjoy the videos on the Kids Ministry Circle YouTube page, don't forget to like and subscribe to get those notifications every time a new video drops.
Well, good. Okay, so let's jump right in. And so today our theme is it is partnering with parents. And if you've been around the ministry world, if you have been in kids ministry for a long time, this is a huge area that we talk about is, hey, you see kids 1 to 2 hours a week if they come to church every Sunday, and that can be rare. But parents have their kids for significantly more time, and the Bible calls parents to be the primary disciplers. And so we want to encourage that, and we want to champion them and support them. And that can be really hard. Yesterday's cohort, everyone kind of felt the tension of how do we do this for parents who all need different things? Like one kid's leader was like, I have a handful of parents who are brand new to faith and know nothing about Jesus and have not been discipled as a kid, and so don't even have an example to look to. But then I have parents who are asking me for more, and I don't know what to give them because I feel like I'm giving them everything. And so it's a hard line to walk, and it can be really hard as a kids ministry leader because Sunday to Sunday is busy and you're trying to prep things for your program on Sunday, and partnering with parents can be something that often gets pushed to the back burner. And so I love that we're having this conversation in conjunction with a conversation that I'm having over on the Kids Ministry Circle podcast. So we're doing a mini series on partnering with parents, and we've launched 2 of them already. We've got 2 more coming that I'm super excited about. And I think the conversation that launched today was really helpful because we asked the question, what do you do when your parents aren't engaging you back? And just along the lines of, hey, you can give and give and give and provide resources and encourage, but sometimes your parents just don't respond. And that can be really discouraging. And so we have that conversation and kind of what these kids ministry leaders that I interview, what they felt like they did and what works for them. So I hope that's helpful to you if you want to listen to that. But let's jump in with our first question. And questions 1 and 2 kind of go together. So I'll ask them at the same time and we can have a lot of conversation around them. So the first question is, what do you do right now to encourage and equip your parents? And what is one way you want to improve how you equip your parents? So who wants to go first?
I can start.
Go for it.
So one thing that I started doing, and it happened during COVID when we were doing like online lessons and stuff, was I was sending out, it was actually weekly parent emails, and now we're down to just monthly parent emails. But I try to use that as a place to give them information, but also at the same time, like find ways that I can encourage them or give them resources. And so I use that avenue as a way to send materials. And like this month, Parent Q, if you're familiar with them, they had an article about 3 hard conversations that every parent is scared of. And so I just was like, hey, this is a really good article. Like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not a parent, so I don't have all the answers for you, but here's a place for you to start.
Yep.
And then let me know how I can also come alongside and encourage you in that. But so I like to find those other resources, especially through something like Parent Q, because the resource is already there. I just have to send that out.
Yep. That's great. That's awesome. What else?
Erica, what is Parent Q? That's something I haven't heard of. Is that a website?
Yeah, so Parent Q is through Orange. So if you're familiar with Orange, it's associated with that, and that's their parent resource page. Um, so they have lots of articles. They have a ton of like books and other resources
Valerie's got one.
that you can purchase. But yeah, Parent Q, they also have an app, I believe, and they send regular emails that parents can sign up for. Um, and they're getting those articles as well with all different types of topics and resources for parents.
Yeah. So there's a level that you get access to so much if you're a curriculum user. But then if you follow Orange on Instagram, they post a lot of these blogs on their Instagram page and you can have access to them for free. So there's a couple different levels within Orange curriculum based on what you pay for as a member, or you can get access as a non-member too. So it's definitely worth looking into. I think a lot of their content that they put out is really great because they do it in conjunction with child psychology. And so they pair the two really well. So it's a good resource.
Thanks. That's cool. This is something I'm really excited to hear more about from you guys because I don't do a lot right now and it's been on my radar. I just started sending out a monthly email to families and parents. And so I'm excited about that, but just including information and trying to find resources like that. We have just started doing a tip, like a monthly tip for families. That's random, whatever it is that I can find or that comes with our curriculum provides some stuff too for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome.
Sorry, that was my kid who's driving home from school. So to make sure she was okay. Yeah, new drivers. And so I'm like, oh boy, what'd you do now?
Oh gosh. Yes.
We're doing right now, we're doing it in our family ministry. It's called Family Discipleship.
Yeah, that's a great one.
By Matt Chandler, Adam Griffin. I think we've been doing it for a while, but we didn't realize there's a fun name for it. They call them milestones. So just being more intentional about what we're celebrating with our parents. So like our Bible presentation for younger kids, baptisms, what else they have in here? Of course, accepting Jesus would be a big one, but even just like simple things like bedtime, like nightly prayers, bedtime stories, family devotionals, family retreats. We have one that we're starting here soon.
Oh, fun.
So we're doing a family retreat this summer. Instead of just taking the high school kids to camp, we're taking the families to camp. So
fun.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Baby dedications, but we're not doing baby dedications anymore. We're doing parent commissionings.
I like that. That's cute.
So, and it's not just a one and done, like they go to a class beforehand. We actually now have a baptism class that we have all our kids take beforehand, but the parents have to come with the kids. I actually got to go one last week and teach one, and it's very interesting to see even how much our parents just don't know, even just like basic biblical knowledge. And so it's it kind of, I want to say levels the playing field, but it just, we're expecting our parents to lead, but sometimes if they don't have a background, they feel very ill-equipped.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to make sure that they feel comfortable doing the same thing.
Yep.
Even communion, like just different milestones. So things that we've been doing, but now I think we just have a better intention of how we're doing it with our parents.
Yeah, that's great.
My office is like dead quiet all day until 3:00 and like everyone descends upon it.
Another great resource that goes along with that book is the Family Discipleship Podcast. If you're not listening to that, I would highly recommend it. And I'm super pumped because Cassie Bryant is coming on the Kids Ministry Circle podcast, talking about partnering with parents, and I'm super pumped about it. So that's
I saw Bree last week.
Yeah,
I was like, I know her.
Yeah, so Bree, who was in one of our previous Kids Ministry cohorts, I interviewed her for the podcast last week. So yeah, that was super fun. So, okay, what else? What else do we got going on parent resources? But also, what are some things that you would like to start doing with your parents?
I'll go because we were planted by the village, and our pastor is very good friends with yeah, Adam Griffin and Cassie Bryant and all of them. So we follow a lot of their things, and thankfully they kind of had a lot of that already mapped out, and so we've just kind of adopted a lot of it. Um, yeah, I will say one kind of unique thing we do is we do of the month card. So the village does like memory verses of the month, and so we had that, and then wanted to add a few other things along with it. So we do yeah, a memory verse of the month. We do a nation of the month where we get to learn about the nation and pray for the nation, just kind of cultivating like a bigger worldview for our kids. And yeah, just being able to see that everyone is created in the image of God and be able to pray for brothers and sisters across the world, but also unbelievers across the world, and get to kind of utilize some missionaries and churches we support outside to kind of yeah, help that time. And then we do a hymn of the month, which we're not super strong in, but we
That's cute.
towards being better about that. And then yeah, this year we just kind of adopted, I don't know, we'll do it every year, but we kind of work these into our schedule in the morning for our like preschool ages, and then for our elementary ages they do kind of a mid-service dismissal, so we actually incorporate one of these each week into a family moment during our like service in the liturgy, kind of as a dismissal for them. And so our theme as a whole church this year has been cultivating the fruit of the Spirit, and so each month we kind of learned a fruit of the Spirit, but that might change to like catechism questions later on or things like that. But we created cards for parents, and so the hope would be that they could use that yeah, in their family discipleship at home. I don't know how many use it, so I actually am like, I don't just hear it super often, but I've heard more people using them, so that is exciting. But yeah, kind of our bread and butter has really been, we do some of like those other things like a child dedication class and family baptism class and things like that, but our bread and butter has really been encouraging parents towards family worship at home, and trying to make it as simple as possible for people who don't have a framework for that and haven't done, but also ways they can build as if they're more experienced in that realm and want to kind of grow deeper as their kids get older, that sort of thing. And so yeah, trying to figure out ways to, I think, communicate that better and kind of link things. So just really trying to think, how can what we do on Sunday morning model for parents, since majority of our parents serve in Mosaic Kids. Yeah, how can that be a model for them to then be able to do at home? So trying to give them tools on a Sunday morning and kind of a framework and more structure, and really just a place for them to practice that. So then hopefully it would translate in home. So really just trying to communicate that to them. I don't know that people see or know that connection. In terms of how we've designed our schedule in Mosaic Kids and what we have chosen to incorporate, has been very, very intentional. And so, yeah, just trying to think, how can we best communicate that to parents so they see the intentionality and the importance of it.
So. How would you define family worship? Like, that's a phrase that I feel like you find it more in like Southern Baptist world. Obviously I go to a Southern Baptist church, and we like, that's a phrase that we say a lot, but I feel like a lot of people may not know what that means. And I feel like most people will be like, you're asking me to pick up a guitar and sing a song. Like, I cannot do that. So how would you define family worship if you were talking to someone who was brand new to your church, not familiar with family discipleship? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'd probably say like family worship is a time dedicated, or I guess centered around three main things. I would say read, pray, and sing. And they don't have to have all of those elements, but that's kind of how we've broken it down to be very similar. So like, you should be reading the word. What that looks like might be different based on your season of life, your age of age, all of those things, but some element of reading the word. We would encourage them to sing. We think that's a part of worship, certainly not all of worship, but a part of it. and then pray. And so those can be scaled back or scaled down, but we feel like that is kind of a baseline minimum. And I would encourage, we kind of tell people to, like, as much as possible as a starting point to habit stack. So for a lot of families, that's doing it in conjunction with something they've already, or they do every day. And not that family worship has to be every day. I think that would be the ultimate goal at some point, but maybe it's once a week or to start. But yeah, trying to habit stack. So for a lot of our families, that's dinner time, they're all around the table, and for littles, they are a little bit distracted by eating. And so they might be maybe a little bit more still, but certainly that can change. So I don't know if that's the best. It's not really a definition, more so.
Yeah, but that's great.
But
yeah, that's awesome. All right. What else? What are some other things that you guys do to partner with parents? What are some things that you were hoping to do to partner with parents? What else?
I actually have a question on that for everybody, if that's okay. Sorry for the background noise too. I have coffee shop office hours, so it gets kind of loud. But as I mentioned before, so my job is multi-aspect. So like I'm overseeing a whole lot of stuff and only have a certain amount of time I can dedicate to kids ministry. And I'm pretty new to my job. And I've been learning that historically we have done nothing with parents, which is problematic for me. And also I only have so much time that I can give to building that up. And so my question for all of you, based on your experience about what's been effective, is like, where's one place that I could start that would be worth my energy?
Which curriculum do you guys use?
I inherited Spark House Digital. If any of you have ever heard of that one, it's pretty, I mean, it's not bad, but it's pretty random and small.
I mean, if it has a what we learned this week aspect for parents, is probably telling them just to steal moments on the drive home, at bedtime, bath time. Start small, because sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, I have to carve time out. And if I carve time out, what's going to go, what am I giving up in place of it? So maybe some baby steps of encouraging parents to, hey, you can do this. This is not out of your league. Yes, you are the main discipler of your kids, and you can do it by baby steps, right? So then once you do that, and then, okay, you're doing really good at this, what else could you do? Or just think about your kids ready to hear a salvation message or something like that.
I also think, because you have such limited time to spend on kids ministry, I think there's a really easy way to slide partner with parents over to like pastoral care, and starting to meet with parents, starting to connect with parents on more of a personal level, can really give you some insight on what they actually need. And so instead of just pulling resources and being like, oh, well, maybe they need this, or maybe they need parent Q, or maybe they need X, Y, and Z, what does it look like for you to sit across a table with parents and say, hey, what are you struggling with? What are the conversations that you're having at home? Are you having a conversation around technology? Are you struggling with finding rhythms? And I think the listening piece is where you can spend more of your time, so that you don't have to spend hours trying to figure out what they actually need. When you listen first, then what you give them is way more intentional, and when you listen to what they actually need, you're giving them buy-in. And so when you do present something to them, they'll say, oh, you listened to that conversation that we had 2 weeks ago. And here you are with this resource that can actually help me with a problem that we're facing in our home right now. And so I think that is probably a great first step to start, is because you're new to your role, because you only have a limited hours to spend in kids ministry specifically, what does it look like to just sit and listen to your parents and get to know them? And maybe it is you find a group of moms and you're like, hey, I'm going to give you a book, and maybe you can do a book study that you don't need to show up every time, but you can help set things up so they can run without you, because you only have a limited number of hours. And so we do a lot of discipleship for parents inside our discipleship rhythms that we're already having. So things like men's and women's Bible study, our institute, and other things that are going on that we can weave in. Hey, parents, here's a little tip for you, because we just have, our church has limited hours as well, and so it's like, hey, we can't always do a parent only event, but a lot of parents are showing up to discipleship spaces that we already have created, and so I would kind of start there. And then I loved what Valerie said of like, just give them one thing. And even what Joanna was saying of, you send out a monthly tip in a parent email or something like that. Starting small is a really great place to start. And then they'll ask you if they want more, but then you can build on top of that.
And I think that building relationships with the parents is really key, especially for myself, not being a parent. I want to have that trust with families so that they know me and they know like, oh, we can listen to what she's saying, even though she's not a parent. Like, she knows what she's doing most of the time. But just having that relationship there, that's when you'll be able to invest more, because you're investing that time and getting to know the parents and the families.
All right. Let's keep going. Was that helpful, Shayna?
Yes, that was so helpful. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, good. Okay, so question number 3, and we could always go back. I love that we can ask questions, but question number 3 is, how do your parents respond to the discipleship resources you provide? I feel like a handful of people have mentioned this already, of like, well, I don't know if it's actually being used. What methods do you use to track engagement? How do you feel like your efforts of partnering with parents are being received? Kind of like, let's touch on this a little bit, on that kind of that topic of, what do you do when your parents aren't participating and you're trying to get engagement and you just aren't sure if they're actually picking up the take-home sheet, or it's ending up at the bottom of their car, or they're reading the email, or all of those things? What kind of things do you think of when you feel like you're trying to figure out that engagement piece?
Can I share?
Yeah, go for it.
And Lauren, I think we even may have talked about this like a couple of cohorts ago, but
yeah,
it's just with our younger parent, like our preschool parents, we're like shoving stuff at them when we pick up. We're like, here's their bag, here's their craft. And like that little slip of paper just gets lost, right? So we talked about, do we give it to them up front? And so we started doing it at drop-off time, handing it like what we learned to the parents. And yes, I find some of them in sanctuary, but for the most part, at least we know they're making it home.
Yeah.
Like I see them tuck it in their Bibles. So that has been one small change that has helped. Mm-hmm. But are they using it? It's hard. Like it's a gamble which parents you think are using it, and then there's the ones that you don't have, like way out and left that radar off your radar, and they make a comment and you're like, oh, you're actually reading that, or like I know on MailChimp you can track some analytics and how many clicks you get, but a lot. So I don't know.
I think it's really maybe in the beginning when they're checking in, sometimes they'll just share some information. Like last year, I handed out this. We're a small church, so I can do this.
Yeah.
But this is just a prayer calendar, and it gives them prompts, if they follow along. And I used to do it where I would send out each monthly, and it would go with my newsletter. But then this came up last year, so I tried it, and a few parents have told me that they're going along and they're checking it off, and so I'm getting a little feedback there. And it doesn't hurt to go back into your newsletter and bring it up and say, hey, today's, tell God what you need from him today, John 14:16, and just to get the conversation going. Also, you can get that feedback when you have like a family game night and you just, playing games with everybody and the families and the parents, and conversations can come up. That kind of thing.
Yep. What else?
Parent Q does have some good like social resources. So that we don't have like we do the handout that they get like at the end of class, but I like the idea of having it at like the welcome counter. So because pickup can be just chaotic.
Yep.
Where I think drop off might have a little more control, I think. But Parent Q has like the social posts that we can make or like images. So if they do lose it, they still have the prompts. I don't know how many of the parents use it, but I think it's been helpful for even us as a staff to have. So we all have access to it. Yeah.
That's awesome. How many of you guys use a texting service?
Well, I don't use it personally for the children's ministry, but my pastor uses it. So I could always ask him to, to share something that's going to come up with children's ministry.
So at our church, I get a text every Sunday afternoon that says, hey parents, here's what the kids learned this week. Here is something to do in response to the lesson. Now I teach large group every Sunday, so I know what my daughter learned on that day. So I'm one step ahead, but it's helpful to get that text message on the way home that says, hey, here's some reminders. Here's some questions you can ask. Here's a prayer you can pray or whatever. And so that tends to be a really great way to partner with parents instead of giving them, I know those take home sheets are really great. My daughter's 4, so she's still in the preschool room. So she gets the take home that like she colors on one side and on the other side it's got questions on it. And so that's kind of another possibility is a texting service. I know that we use Clearstream, which is really great because a handful of ministries can use it at the same time. So like your students team can send out text messages to their group and get replies. They also, I will say this, we're not talking about volunteers right now, but this is a side note. They also use Clearstream I get a text every Thursday that says, hey, thanks so much for serving. If you can't make it, just respond to this message. And you can respond directly to the Clearstream number and it gets sent to our kids' associate who does all the scheduling. And so if you're struggling to have volunteers show up on Sunday, a text may be really helpful. So that's just another option.
It's definitely better than, everyone checks their email, but sometimes they'll miss it, or if they see it, they mean to open it, but they don't.
Yep.
That's texting. Everyone has it. Everyone's getting them all day long. So
yeah.
I'm wondering if Planning Center has it because we use Planning Center.
So Clearstream, you can connect the two. So I think Planning Center, they might, I don't know. Does someone know they have like a texting option within Planning Center or do you have to use an outside app?
I believe they just got a texting option. We are looking into it to switching. So I'm pretty sure they do. It might be like an upcharge or things like that.
Probably,
I'm pretty sure they have it as a function now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can like pay for credits and then use those credits to send texts.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, if depending on your church size, I suppose too, you can text within Planning Center. It'll go from your personal number.
Okay.
I've been doing that. Well, I don't like giving out my personal numbers. Well, I don't love that. So I know a lot of weird things about the backside of it because I've been trying to figure out how to not have my personal number out there.
Yep.
But the person I took it over from used to do it from her personal number. She was cool with that, and that's fine. But that's not me. So so I have a Google number now, and I text our volunteers if they don't confirm by like Thursday. I'm like, hey, it's Katie. How you doing? You gonna be here Sunday? We have you in this room at this time. You still coming? And I'm really nice about it. And so a Google number, it's a little bit labor intensive because it's an app on your phone. It's a separate app.
Yeah.
But even through PCO, if you click on the text button, it doesn't give you like a preform message the way you can have emails in PCO that are just like, hey, you've been put on the schedule or a reminder to serve. It's not that. So the Google's number is nice because I like that for the purpose of, I just took over this aspect of our ministry from somebody and I'm excited for it. But someday when something happens, God calls me somewhere else, somebody else can use the same number, and our volunteers won't have that jarring of like, who do I call now? Or they're still calling me and I'm, in another state or something.
Yeah,
that would not be
that's
good.
A great idea. Yeah, that's awesome.
Katie, do you use that to text families as well, or is that just for volunteers?
I just do it for volunteers because that's my area, but I could do it for anything. And honestly, I think I have a work phone number. I'll be honest, I've only been on the team like 5 months now. I haven't used my work phone number yet. I haven't gotten a call, I don't think, because I haven't gotten a voicemail, because it apparently comes in an email. I don't know, because I've never seen one. So I put it on my signature. I was like, this is my new phone number, because it's a cell phone and you can set it up to forward right to your own cell phone. So like it's an app on my cell phone and I can just text right from it like normal. And then you can set it up to get an email when you get a text too. So then I get an email too. So if I forget, or if I was out of the office and I wanted to forward my emails to whoever's covering for me, like if I want to forward them to Cami, I could be like, here you go, Cami. Now you can text it back. And if you're cool sharing your login with somebody, then they could log in when you're out or whatever too. So that's the other continuity piece that I used to work in the financial industry. So like, I love that part of it. Like I'm a nerd for that backups to backups to backups. So
yep. Nice. Here's a question for you. What events are you guys running for parents? So this could be like seasonal events. Yesterday, our cohort talked about those like family experience events, and we talked about how important those are to really showing churches, or not showing churches, showing parents what discipleship looks like. So I know obviously Orange has like Jingle Jam and those kind of family experience events. I know Go Curriculum has things like the Gingerbread Bash, which are really popular. And it just gets all of your families in a room, and you can sit people at a table and say, hey, parents, we just watched this all together. Now here's the resources to talk about it. And I feel like it's a safer space being in church than being at home. And so I would love to kind of know. And so there's those events, but then there's also more like parent only teaching discipleship events. So I'd love to know what you guys do at your churches to partner with parents in events specifically.
Before we jump on that, may I ask just one question?
Yep, go for it.
When you're texting hey, this is what I learned today, are there multiple services, or does it only text at one time, or you only text the kids who showed up that day? Like, how does that work?
So they send it to everybody. So everybody on their list gets a text at 12:30.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious about that. Activities for our parents. We have a parent-specific small group that will meet. They commit to 8 weeks at a time, and they walk through. They've done like Paul David trip books. Our parent commissioning also, they basically do like a small group, and they do parent commissioning, and then they like, hey, you guys did this for 8 weeks. You guys did a really good job. You should consider being a small group and stay together. Or they disperse and go to other small groups, but they try to at least encourage them to be in a small group. We provide childcare at the church, so like parents can go out into other people's houses. Like I said, we do the parent commissioning classes. What else? Parent specific. Yes, we do Jingle Jam, Easter Jam, Back to School Jam.
All the jams.
We jam out here a lot. We be jamming. There we go. But you're right, that tends to fall more to pastoral for parents. Although now that we've restructured and we are a family ministry, that's starting to change a little bit. So I think actually we're looking for ideas. So let's hear what you got.
Yeah.
All right. We do, we have a few events throughout the year, but they're more focused. I mean, they're just outreach events, so more focused on large community families in the community. So not really specifically discipleship. And though I really like to bring in, like for our Easter event, we do an Easter fair indoors, and we'll do a lesson time of the Easter story and kind of a follow-up with that for families. specifically for discipleship, we have a mom's. It's kind of like MOPS, but not all MOPS. It's called All Moms here. But yeah, a mom's group that meets all through the school year. And then there's a kids program that happens at the same time as that. So we have that going on specifically for moms. Sunday school classes on Sundays for families and parents. And I'm trying to think of what else, other kind of things. Yeah, not a lot. I like just hearing what Valerie was saying about all the parent, you guys have a lot what you're doing with the parent, doing stuff like dedications or those 6-week discipleship programs or going through a book. Those kind of things we're not doing. So I love hearing those ideas.
I'll share what I've done throughout the years. So I feel like I've tried everything. Like I know it's hard because people are like, what time do you do it at where you get the most attendance, like all this stuff. And I feel like I've just tried a variation of things. I've done Sunday afternoons, Sunday evenings to like miss the people coming from work. And so I've done that. I've done Friday nights and done dinner and make it feel more like a date night kind of theme. I've done Saturday mornings and provided breakfast for parents. And we've kind of done all sorts of themes. So I've brought in, I speak on kind of the ages and stages of development and how to talk to faith, how to talk about Jesus with your kids in all ages and stages. And so I do that conversation. We've talked about just overall mission of parents and how your home is a mission field. And that's kind of laid the foundation for parents who maybe don't have that foundation of discipleship from growing up and don't really know that, hey, the mission field is not just in Africa. Like your home is a place where kids don't know Jesus, and it should be treated as a place where you can share the gospel. And it's important to think of it that way. And I've brought in speakers to talk about like sexuality and that conversation with parents. There's one here in Denver that's called Parenting Safe Kids, and they talk about like how to engage the conversation around like sexuality with preschoolers and how to talk about safety with their bodies and stuff like that. So I've brought that in. What else have I done? We've done a family ministry event about technology. I feel like if you were paying attention to what's going on in the world, you kind of get an idea of like, oh, maybe this would be helpful for parents. So I know the church that I used to be at staff on just brought in Andy Crouch and did a technology seminar with their parents. I'm sure that was extremely helpful for parents to talk about technology and boundaries around technology. So those are kind of like the things that I've done over the years. So that's kind of my examples.
Lauren, can I ask if those, it sounds like those are all in-person events. Do you ever do online seminars or those kind of things?
I don't try and do online stuff. When COVID was happening, we did an online seminar about, we had someone come in and talk about child psychology. That was like an online Zoom event. And I feel like what you miss with an online event is just that community piece and connecting parents to one another, and just that idea around building friendships and sitting around the table and parents being like, oh, your child is a toddler and has not eaten dinner for 2 days. Oh, same. Like that kind of conversation where it's like, oh, your child is also doing this and you're also experiencing this as a parent, and you're also not having time to focus on your marriage and all these things. And so when parents can sit across a table and say, oh, me too, I'm not the only one who's experiencing this, that changes the way that people engage. And so on an online event, you miss that piece. And so anytime you can add in this community aspect to an event, I think it impacts your attendance numbers, because when parents all come together with their friends, it makes the event more fun, but also there's also an accountability piece leaving the event. And so when you're all hearing the same thing, all being challenged to do the same thing, then parents can leave and say, hey, remember what we talked about? Remember what we are hoping to do as parents? Remember what we're trying to do in terms of discipling? I think adding that community piece is a big one.
Totally agree. Yeah, I've noticed that even with trying to follow up with like what we were talking about earlier, take-home sheets, what kind of things are effective. The things that have been most effective for us is just when I stop someone in the hallway and talk with them, or just have a coffee date or something like that. Really is just that face. Something about being in person, face to face is so valuable.
Yeah.
And for people, especially out with other parents, to all be together in that community. When you're advertising those kind of things, do you say it specifically for like set up an event that's specifically for your church parents and use that kind of verbiage? Or is it something, I think a lot of our events so far is I've thought about doing specifically things for us, but they end up being community things.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, I don't think, but.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it can be for parents. Like we had, like the one that we brought in, the Parenting Safe Kids, that is definitely a community event, because the person who leads that puts that event on her website, and like she sells tickets. And so anybody could come. But also the church that I was at had a really thriving MOPS group. And so a handful of people didn't go to our church, but still knew about the event through MOPS. And so they showed up. And so it just kind of, I don't think that having community members invited is a bad thing. I think if you are in a small church context, or even just a whatever size, I think a great way to get a lot of momentum for an event is partner with another church in the area. I loved doing this when I was in the church plant position, and I partnered with a handful of other church plants in the area and put on a parenting event, because I feel like the more people are in the room, the higher the energy is, and you can share resources. And we were all in the same part of Denver. And so there was a lot of overlap with, oh, my kids go to the same school, but we go to different churches. And so there was a lot of that overlap, which was fun to see. And I feel like you share the workload of preparing for an event, and we didn't have a big space. And so we got to use another church's big space because we partner with them. And so I think that's a really fun way if you feel like only 10 parents are going to show up and it's going to not feel exciting, you could always partner with other churches and have a much bigger, more energetic event that's more worth your while. But I think when you're marketing it, you obviously send it to your people first, like you send it to your church and you talk about it on Sunday. But then I don't see a problem with saying, hey, invite your friends, invite parents that you know in your neighborhood. And I'm sure the content is going to be helpful for anybody who listens. What else? Okay, the last question is what can you do to think outside the box when it comes to partnering with parents? So I'm trying to think what was said in yesterday's cohort. So some things that we talked about in yesterday's cohort was like a parent roundtable. So these are one of my favorite events to put on, because I think you're creating a really safe space with parents. And so like personally inviting 5 to 10 parents from just elementary and getting them coffee or meeting somewhere at someone's home in the evening, and just being able to have some really candid conversation about what are you experiencing? What are you going through? How can the church support you? How can we encourage and equip you to be great parents? And then you could do that also with preschoolers. When I was at a church in Denver, I worked really closely with the students team, and we did a lot of crossover events. And so pairing a 4th and 5th grade parent with a parent of an 8th grader is really sweet, because they can say, oh, hey, I've been there. I remember what 6th grade was like. I remember what middle school and how awful it was and how great it was and all the things. And so just to pair parents up and say, hey, these parents have walked what you are about to walk, and they are following Jesus, and their kids are following Jesus, and they're going to help you navigate this season. So those are some fun things that we talked about with like thinking outside the box, but I'd love to know if anybody else has any ideas or any other questions, thoughts, partnering with parents. What does this look like?
We just started it like 3 weeks ago, a parent advisory committee. So parents from all age groups from birth through high school are committed for 1 year to meet, like I think quarterly, and just here's our plans, if I feedback, how are things going, just kind of keeping a pulse on what's happening.
That's awesome.
And then I'm kind of curious, what do you guys put on your parent resource corner, your parent resource wall? Like, what's been helpful for you guys?
Great question.
I think we have the cue books and we have the cue cards, which are like phases. But what else do you guys put out?
We don't have a wall. How's that? Don't put anything.
I do
bookshelf, whatever you want to call it.
I know.
Well,
I guess
board.
at our check-in counter, we do have a spot. So yeah. There you go. Yeah.
I think a wall is really fun when you can add seasonal resources. So Valerie, I would start putting a bunch of Christmas books on your wall, because everyone's looking for Christmas books that they can read to their kids. Oh, look, there's some Skittles things. Sandy's got something down there.
It's
a prayer for Thanksgiving.
It's
That's
prayer,
cute.
yeah, for each color. So I was going to put that on Sunday morning. I just came across this one.
And so, so I would do seasonal stuff, because your parent cue stuff is there year round, but how can you add like some books about the Christmas story to that? How can you talk about Advent guides and all those fun things? But also there's a bunch of like the books by the Raising Boys and Girls team. Their books are really great. I know that if you're on the Kids Mission Circle email list, which all of you are because you get my emails anyways, I send out a monthly resource email with a ton of resources that are new to me. If you follow me on Instagram, every Monday I do stories that are called In Case You Missed It, which are new resources to me that I found recently. A lot of them are parent resources. So I try and like part of something that I do for Kids Ministry Circle is I try and make sure I'm up to date on resources so that all of you are up to date on resources. And so you could follow along there, but it's definitely, if I had a fun wall, I would just add all sorts of things, all things, books, Bible, like, someone from yesterday's cohort put kids' Bibles up on their wall so parents could visually see them and like touch them, look in them. She said that grandparents love the Bibles on the resource wall because they're like, oh, I don't know what Bible to get my grandchild. And they can look through them and then figure out which one they want to buy on Amazon. So she said Bibles are really fun.
Quick question. When you say on the resource wall, is this just a picture so people have an idea, or do you actually hand out copies of Bibles, books?
Yeah, my question is that how do you keep it from walking away?
Oh, I don't know. Put an air tag on it. Just like, I don't know. It's a hard thing. You could always get picture frames and put a picture frame of the cover of the book and then use a QR code. And so they could scan it to Amazon. I don't know. If you have that, oh, look, she's got some. Are you picture frames of books? Or are you? Oh, what's that? Oh, is that your, oh, cute. Those are cute. Or you could just go off the honor code and just put the books out there.
What is that?
Hold on, I realized I was on mute. I'm so sorry. But it was just the 936 Sundays that you have between birth and graduation. Yeah. And then I have 5 of these frames that they get less and less.
That's so cute. Wow. I love the pom-poms instead of the marbles. Those are cute.
I do all of them, but you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I just finished it like 2 days ago. So it has to be hung up next.
Cute.
But that's going to go on my parent wall also.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Michael's not Michael's, Hobby Lobby. Every other week they go on sale. They go on half price sale. So wait till then.
Mm-hmm. And use your 10% off church discount.
Talk about.
I don't have a specific resource wall yet. It's in the works. But I found from another Kids Pastors friend like a one sheet about like salvation or water baptism or communion. So some of those things that are like frequently talked about, but maybe parents don't know where to find like scripture references or like just some like quick facts and stuff. And so I took his template and then edited it for my ministry. And it's just bright colors, different shapes that I put text inside of. I can send you guys one that just it's just a one sheet. Like kids are interested in water baptism. Okay, here's this one sheet. I want you to take this and talk it over as a parent and child, and then we'll have further conversations. But it's kind of just something to get those conversations started. And parents have really enjoyed those.
That's awesome. All right, any final thoughts? Yes, Valerie. If you use your church card, and you got to ask at the checkout of Hobby Lobby, if you use your church card, you get an additional 10% off. Oh, you're on mute.
That's on the space bar. But a church card, you mean like church credit card, or do you have to have like a tax ID, something?
No, well, you get tax exempt if you have your tax ID verification. But then this is an additional 10% off if you have like a church. I think they're pretty sticklers.
I've used my credit card there, but they've never told me that.
You have to say it. You have to say
I know, but now I know. Now I'm mad because I know what I asked. But
hey, I just did a video on Instagram about Hobby Lobby. So follow along on Instagram and watch the videos for all my fun tips and tricks.
Instagram, I'll ask my kid to help me. Got it.
I think a good resource that we've used, even like for families that are new to the faith, the Jesus Storybook Bible is fantastic, even for adults. I think everybody who's new to the faith should start with that because it just makes it at a level that is so understandable.
Yep.
So last year at the Christmas Eve services, we gave them to all the kids.
Oh, cute.
So that's been really cool to see how people have used them like in their own like routines and habits and things.
That's awesome. All right, friends. Well, it's 2:00. There was a lot talked about. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any further questions. You can go on the group me chat if you want to ask more questions there. Yeah, it was a great conversation. The next one, so we have 2 more meetings left. The next one we're going to do is all about strategic planning for kids ministry and setting goals and kind of tapping into more of like leadership skills. So what tools do you use to help you stay organized throughout the year? What to do post event and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about next. And then the very last session 6, is a free for all. So right now I'm just going to collect, if you have any questions that you're like, hey, we haven't talked about this yet, but I really want to talk about it, send it to me, shoot me an email and I'll add it to week 6's conversation. So that's kind of, and all of this will be sent via email as well. But that's kind of what's coming up for the last 2. And so let me pray and then we can finish out and you guys can get back to work.